Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this Hearthstone's The Witchwood preview video, I'm going to take a look at the newly revealed warrior legendary minion, Darius Crowley, and what its implications might be for the potential return of Tempo Warrior. So first, the legendary card itself, Darius Crowley. It's a 5-mana 4/4 minion with Rush and an ability. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. Wait a moment, I've seen this ability somewhere before. Oh yeah, it's Boogie Monster. Possibly the worst Hearthstone card ever. A very weak legendary minion. And this one shares the ability with that, so what's up with that? Does that mean that this card is completely useless then? It might not, because there are a couple of crucial differences. Boogie Monster was extremely understated for its mana cost. This one, understated, but not quite as badly. And second, Darius has Rush, which means that Darius's effect is always going to get activated. It's always going to turn into a 6/6 minion. Well, once it kills a minion, it usually takes some damage, so it will have less than 6 health left. But it's always going to get that buff. And it's also a minion that the opponent still has to remove. So first it trades away a minion, and then after that it's still on the board, it still takes away some more resources from the opponent, and having 6 attack means that if opponent wants to trade into it with another minion, then that minion is also very likely to die. So actually Darius is very likely to get at least a 2-for-1 trade. So while the Boogie Monster effect might scare people away, and I'm not completely sure if this is good enough, but giving it Rush means that it's a world different from what Boogie Monster was. Well, how does this relate to Tempo Warrior? I'm actually one of the few people who has played Tempo Warrior in Kobolds and Catacombs meta, so I have quite a good idea on what the deficiencies of that deck was. So Kobolds and Catacombs Tempo Warrior was a deck that ran stuff like Prince Kelazet, Frothing Berserker, Bloodraiser, Spiteful Summoner. It did resemble Pirate Warrior a lot, because I tried to play Tempo Warrior both with and without the Pirate package, and the Pirate package version was simply better. Warrior had so few ways to contest the board without the Pirates. But it still remained a bit of a slower deck with a little bit more top end than a pure Pirate Warrior, more of a mid-range deck in fact. Well, those Pirates are now rotating out, so Tempo Warrior have to figure out a new early game. But the real problem with Tempo Warrior was that the Pirate opener was just so and so on contesting the board. Then it relied very heavily on cards like Bloodraiser and cards like Ravaging Ghoul, which is rotating out, in order to get a swing going, and then from turns 3, 4, 5, 6 it would start to get on the board and gain control of the game. Now, if we look at how Tempo Warrior was performing, so it couldn't quite get the board at the beginning, but it was able to pretty well do that swing, but just not quite enough to be really a viable deck. Enter Rush minions. Darius Crowley, Rush minion, able to remove a minion from the board and retain a minion on the board on your side. Enter Red Band Wasp, Rush minion, Militia Commander, Rush minion, Muck Hunter, Rush minion. As well as something like Muck Hunter and Bloodraiser. Muck Hunter is a 5-mana 5/8 which summons 2 2/1s for your opponent. But if you have equipped a Bloodraiser on 4 and you play Muck Hunter on 5, and then you swing the Bloodraiser again, so the Whirlwind effect kills the 2/1s, you have effectively just played a 5/7 with Rush for 5 mana. Now we're starting to talk about cards that have actual power to get that mid-game tempo swing and gain that board control, and then from there never give up on board control and just start pushing damage. Also, something like Warpath, one of the other new cards, deal 1 damage to all minions with Echo. Warpath, Frothing Berserker. You can do multiple Whirlwind effects in a single turn. Some pretty interesting things there. Overall, I don't see the Rush minions promoting any kind of Control Warrior archetype. Rush minions for Warrior are all about that mid-range, that tempo type of Warrior deck. It's not really an aggro deck. An aggro deck would just use charge minions and go face. but it's that mid-range type of deck that takes the control off the board after a few turns and then never lets go of that and just pushes damage to the face. And that is something that these cards, Darius Crowley and the other released rush cards, might just let Warrior do in the future, much more successfully than it has been able to do during Kobolds and Catacombs. Of course, many questions still remain on what the Tempo Warrior build would look like. For example, would it really use Redman Wasp? Would it really use Warpath? Or would it just use Prince Kelazet? Because then again, Prince Kelazet is pretty good with rush minions too. 6/9 Mach Hunter, 3/6 Militia Commander. Those are really interesting opportunities, so it might turn out that using other 2-mana cards instead of Kelazet is suboptimal, but it really depends on what kind of 1 and 3 drops are available, because those largely define the viability of Kelazet for the early game. Also, there's a question of late game of Tempo Warrior. So, Spiteful Summoner. Is Spiteful Summoner the real deal for this? Because currently, Spiteful Summoner in Tempo Warrior relies on 2 spells. There's Lesser Mithril Spellstone, a 7-mana spell, and there's Unidentified Shield, which is a 6-mana spell. So getting 7-drop and 6-drop from Spiteful Summoner is not that strong. It's clearly a lot weaker than getting an 8-drop or 10-drop that other Spiteful Summoner decks are doing. So is that enough of a swing? Does Warrior get any more expensive spells? If Warrior gets an 8-mana spell or 10-mana spell in the expansion, that would be huge. Even if it doesn't, maybe Spiteful Summoner with these spells is the way to go. After all, Lesser Mithril Spellstone can also give you quite a few minions on the board. But then that's also a question of whether Warrior gets weapons, and what kind of weapons, because Nesot's First Mate is going away. So it will be more difficult for Warrior to buff up the Spellstone, unless they get some new tools that they can use. But overall, very interesting times, and looking at the future card reveals, it will be interesting to see them also from the point of view of what can they do for Tempo Warrior. Because we have already gained a bunch of cards that are clearly suitable for supporting this kind of archetype. And does it get sufficient support that you can actually put a deck together? That's something I'm really looking forward to in the future Witchwood reveals. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.